Hi guys, hope you're fine and in best of spirits and hope your preparation for the upcoming prelims is going on very well. Now I'm making the video on chapter 2 of Modern Indian History, the old NCERT by Bipin Chandra. So in this chapter, I will be covering this chapter in 2 or 3 videos, and in this chapter, which is Indian States and Society in the 18th Century, we will be covering the state of different provinces and regional powers. Some provinces that became virtually independent with the weakening of the Mughal Empire, like Bengal, Awadh, Karnataka, Hyderabad. So, and some of the regional powers like Marathas, Jats, Sikhs, Mysore. And then in the forthcoming subsequent videos, I'll be covering the economic, religious, cultural, and social life of the people in the 18th century. Hello, everyone. So I'm starting with the chapter 2, Indian States and Society in the 18th century. And in this chapter, we will be discussing about the different states, those provinces which were under the Mughals, and those states, the regional powers that were rebelling against the Mughals from time to time. So we will be studying about those states and the society. What was the condition of the people in the 18th century? So there were number of kingdoms like Hyderabad, Mysore, Bengal, Awadh, Marathas that emerged as power centers on the debris of the Mughal Empire. So, as the Mughal Empire declined and the Mughal Empire was crisis ridden, at that time, number of states or kingdoms they emerged like Hyderabad, Mysore, Bengal, Awadh, Marathas. So they became as the regional powers, and these powers they tried to challenge British in the later half of the 18th century. This we will see that how these powers were also challenging a new enemy or the new danger in the form of Britishers. The polity of these states was secular in nature. So that means these states, when they appointed people in the army or in civil post, the religion of the officer did not matter. So the polity was secular. They did not differentiate it between the Hindus and the Muslims. Also, they prevented the local chiefs and zamindars from accumulating power. So, in this chapter, we will be studying about the different provinces that were once the provinces of the Mughal Empire but later declared independence. Some of these provinces are like Hyderabad, Karnataka, then Awadh, Bengal. So we will be studying about these provinces, that how these provinces were under the governor of the Mughal Empire, and later these governors they consolidated power and declared their independence from the Mughal Empire. So they became virtually independent of the empire, but they did not break their formal ties with the empire. So that means they were taking the decisions independently, but the decisions were ultimately they were verified by the Mughal Empire, the Mughal Emperor. But Mughal Emperor he could not interfere in those decisions. He was merely a rubber stamp. We will be studying about these provinces that were once the part of the Mughal Empire. Then, secondly, we will study about those kingdoms that enjoyed considerable independence under the Mughals. So these were some of the Rajput kingdoms. What was their state of affairs once the Mughal Empire became weak? And finally, we will be studying about the third category. That means those regional powers that had rebelled against the Mughals from time to time. So that means the Marathas and the Sikhs. Okay, then there were Jats. So we will study about them also. So firstly, we will talk about Hyderabad. So Hyderabad, it was founded by Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah. So Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah, he was the Wazir of the Mughal Empire from 1722 to 24, and if you recall, we have studied about him in the first chapter also, that he was responsible for the overthrow of the Sayyid brothers. So he helped in the overthrow of Sayyid brothers, who acted as the kingmakers, and he was there in the court of Farooq Siyar and then the next Mughal emperor Muhammad Shah. So he was made the wazir from 1722 to 24, and at that time the emperor was Muhammad Shah. As I told you, he played a key role in overthrowing Sayyid brothers, and he was given the charge of Deccan. So, firstly, he was given the governorship of Awadh, and after that, he was given the charge of Deccan. Now, he wanted to reform the Mughal administration, but Muhammad Shah, the Mughal emperor, he was conspiring against him and he was non cooperative with the vizier. So, this led to the departure of Nizamul Mulk, Asaf Jah, from the Mughal Empire. So, he went to Deccan. He had strong hold over the Deccan. So, he founded the state of Hyderabad in 1724, and he ruled Hyderabad with strong hand and never openly declared his independence from the Mughal Empire. So, as I told you, he remained the part of the Mughal Empire, but he acted as a virtually independent ruler. He took his own decisions. He appointed his own mansabdars and gave them jagirs, and he did not took the permission of the Mughal Empire. And whatever decision he took, the Mughal emperor, he just gave his nod or his acceptance to those decisions. So Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah here, the picture depicting him. He was ruling with a strong hand, and there was a good law and order situation in Hyderabad and an efficient administration. He was able to keep Marathas at bay. So Marathas were also trying to attack, usurp the region, but he was capable enough to restrict advancing towards Hyderabad. And he also checked the growing power of zamindars. So Asaf Jah, he was maintaining good law and orders situation in Hyderabad. The zamindars were under control. He appointed the mansabdars and gave them jagirs. And then again, the polity of Hyderabad was secular in nature. That means he gave equal importance to both the Hindus and Muslims, while appointing them to civil and military positions. He died in 1748, and Hyderabad faced the similar problems as the Mughal Empire. So, after his death, Hyderabad, it fell prey to the same problems that were there in the Mughal Empire of the successors. So, they were fighting for the successors and all the other problems that were ailing the Mughal Empire. So, that means inefficiency in administration, zamindars asserting power. Carnatic, it was one of the Suba under the authority of Nizam of Hyderabad. So it was ruled by deputy Subadar, and with time it also became independent of Hyderabad. So as Hyderabad became independent of the Mughal Empire, similarly Carnatic also became independent of Hyderabad with time. Its capital was Arcot, and the Nawab of Carnatic, Sadatullah, he declared his nephew Dost Ali as his successor without the approval of Nizam. So that means the Nawab of Carnatic, he made the Nawabship hereditary. So he appointed his own successor without taking permission from the Nizam of Hyderabad. In time to come, Carnatic also witnessed the war of successions like in the Hyderabad or in the Mughal Empire. So, after some time, those war of successions also started in the Carnatic, and there was interference by the European trading companies. So, we will see how Carnatic, the Nawab of Carnatic, he fell prey to the politics of the trading companies like the French trading company and the British trading company. So, this we will see in the coming lectures. Coming on to the next succession state of the Mughal Empire, that is Bengal. So Bengal was also a succession state like the Hyderabad and the Awadh. As the governors of Bengal, they could, with time, asserted their autonomy and made themselves virtually independent of the Mughal Empire. Although they continued paying tribute to the empire, but still they started making their own decisions and they became independent. So Bengal also became independent of Mughal control under Murshid Quli Khan and Alivardi Khan, although it continued paying tribute to Delhi. I've already told you this, that Bengal, it became virtually independent under different Nawabs, and the most important was the Murshid Quli Khan and Alivardi Khan. So Murshid Quli Khan, he became governor of Bengal in 1770, and before that in 1700 he was made the Diwan of Bengal. From 1700 onwards, he acted as a virtual ruler, and there was assumption of power by Murshid Quli Khan. And finally, in 1717, he was made the governor of Bengal. He was able to free Bengal from internal and external threats. So he could free Bengal from the internal rebellions of zamindars from time to time. He died in 1727, and his son-in-law Shuja Uddin succeeded him. So the next Nawab after Murshid Quli Khan was Shuja Uddin. Shuja Uddin ruled till 1739, and Alivardi Khan became the next Nawab of Bengal. So till 1739, Shuja Uddin was the Nawab, and when he died, Alivardi Khan, he killed the son of Shuja Uddin, and himself he became the next Nawab of Bengal. So this slide shows the picture of two powerful men ruling the Bengal from time to time. So this is the picture of Murshid Quli Khan and Alivardi Khan. Now next heading under Bengal is contribution of these Nawabs to the growth of Bengal. So how these Nawabs from time to time have contributed to the growth of Bengal. Firstly, long period of peace to Bengal. Secondly, reorganization of finances under Murshid Quli Khan. So Murshid Quli Khan, who was earlier made the Diwan of Bengal, and he became the effective ruler of Bengal. So he took some of the steps to make the revenue administration efficient. What were the steps? Firstly, he carried out fresh revenue settlement. Secondly, he converted Jagir lands into Khalisa lands. So Jagir lands were converted into crown lands. Thirdly, he introduced revenue farming. That means a new class was introduced for collecting revenue from peasants. So revenue farmers, they collected revenue, they deposited this revenue to the state. Then the next step he took is granting takavi or agricultural loans. So agricultural loans or takavi was given to peasants by Murshid Quli Khan so that they are able to pay the revenue on time to the state. The third step the Nawabs took was they gave equal opportunity to both Hindus and Muslims in the civil and military post. So in these posts, mostly the Bengalis were appointed, which were mostly Hindus. Then the fourth step taken by the Nawabs was expansion and promotion of trade. So these Nawabs, they knew that expansion of trade is important and is beneficial both for the people and the government. So they took some important measures in this area. Firstly, they encouraged. Secondly, safety to merchants. So how they provided safety to merchants by building the thanas and chowkis, so they are free from the dangers of the thieves and robbers attacking them from time to time. Thirdly, they kept vigil on private trade by officials, so that the officials, they do not conduct private trade. and therefore they checked on the corruption. And similarly, they kept the vigil on the customs department. So again, they controlled the customs department so that there is no corruption in the department. Also, they tried to maintain strict control over foreign trading companies and its merchants. So they made the foreign trading company and its merchants, they made them obey the laws of the land and to pay the revenue on time. So this is how they controlled them. The fifth contribution was Alivardi Khan. He did not permit the English and French to fortify their factories. So he did not allow the two foreign trading companies, that is the English East India Company and French Company, to fortify their factories in Calcutta and Chandarnagar. So all these were we have seen the steps taken by the Nawabs in contributing to the growth of Bengal, and Bengal was the revenue surplus state, and this was because of the efficient revenue administration which was maintained by Murshid Quli Khan ever since he became the Diwan and then the governor of Bengal, and it continued till the Alivardi Khan. Now, some of the short-sightedness or limitations of the Nawabs of Bengal. Now, what were the limitations? Firstly, they ignored the increasing use of military force by the British East India Company. So the Britishers, they have started using military force in 1707 to make their demands accepted. But the Nawabs, they ignored this tendency of the officials of British East India Company. So secondly, believed that a mere trading company could not be their opponent. So the Nawabs, they did not seriously took note of the growing powers of the company. They just felt that it was just a small company and it is there only to do business and trade. So it could not be their opponent. It could not challenge the Nawabs in future. Thirdly, lack of contact with the outside world. So another reason of ignoring the growing powers of British East India Company was the lack of contact with the outside world. So they did not knew what the company was doing in other parts of the world like Africa, Southeast Asia. So they were unaware of the expansionist tendency of the British East India Company and the growing colonialism. So they were converting different parts of the countries around the world into their colonies, but these Nawabs were totally ignorant of this fact. Fourthly, absence of strong army. So the army was just 2,000 cavalry and 4,000 soldiers during the reign of Murshid Quli Khan. And then Ali Vardi Khan, when he became Nawab, he was again, there was disruptions by the Marathas. They time to time attacked Bengal, and Ali Vardi Khan has to give chauth to them, and he ceded a large part of Orissa. Still, they did not gave that much importance in maintaining the strong army as they should have given. So then we will see how the successor of Ali Vardi Khan, that is Sirajuddaula, was defeated by the Britishers in the Battle of Plassey in 1757. And lastly, corruption amongst Nawab's officials. So there was again another problem was the growing corruption amongst the officials of the state like qazis, muftis. So they were becoming corrupt, and this was the weakness that was utilized by British East India Company to expand its control in Bengal. Coming to the next succession state after Hyderabad and Bengal, this succession state is Awadh. It was also under the Mughal Empire, but it also with time became virtually independent of the Mughal Empire. So firstly, I'll tell you about Awadh. Awadh was a prosperous region as it included the rich fertile alluvial plains of Ganga. Secondly, Awadh, it controlled the trade route between North India and Bengal. So these were the two important factors that added to the prosperity of the region. Now, Awadh, it was being ruled by Sadat Khan Burhan ul Mulk, who became its governor. And he was very bold, energetic, and iron willed person who ruled Awadh with a strong hand. In time to come, Awadh became the most important state to break away from the Mughal Empire. Sadat Khan Burhan ul Mulk became the governor or the Subadar of Awadh in 1722. So Sadat Khan, he took some of the steps to improve the finances or the administration of Awadh. And he was a strong ruler. He ruled with a strong hand. So some of the steps he took was firstly to improve the finances of Awadh. So what he did in order to improve the finances, he suppressed and disciplined the rebellious zamindars. So these zamindars, they became with time they became powerful. They were maintaining their own army. They were fortifying their areas, and they were refusing to pay taxes. So they were defying the government orders. So Sadat Khan, he tried to suppress them and he disciplined these rebellious zamindars. Then these zamindars were defeated, but they were not displaced. That means they were given back their estates once they have paid their dues regularly. Next, he carried out fresh revenue settlement in 1723, and he also took some other steps to decrease the Mughal influence, like he removed the Jagirdars appointed by the Mughal Empire and he appointed his own Jagirdars. Secondly, he also reduced the size of Jagirs and he put the check on the accounts of Jagirdars. Next step he took was he appointed revenue farmers to collect revenue from the peasants. Lastly, he protected peasants from the oppression by zamindar by levying the rightful land revenue from peasants. So he also protected the peasants in the process. Next step he took was he gave equal opportunity to both Hindus and Muslims in employment. Then his army was well paid and well trained. Next, he had an efficient administration. Lastly, he tried to decrease the Mughal influence in Awadh and ultimately he became virtually independent. So he took all these steps to make Awadh a powerful region, and he improved the administration, the army. He gave equal opportunity to both Hindus and Muslims, and he also tried to improve the finances of Awadh. Sir of Sadat Khan Burhan ul Mulk was Safdarjung. So Sadat Khan, he died in 1739 and he was succeeded by his nephew Safdarjung. And meanwhile, Safdarjung, he was also appointed as the Wazir of Mughal Empire and given the extra charge of Allahabad. Now Safdarjung, while he was the governor of Awadh, he also took some of the steps to improve the administration or to maintain the peace. So he made an alliance with the Maratha Sardars to protect his territories from enemies. Secondly, he also gave equal opportunity in employment to both Hindus and Muslims. He also suppressed the rebellious zamindars who refused to pay taxes to the state. So he also suppressed these zamindars and he gave a long period of peace and prosperity to the people of Awadh. So these governors of Awadh, they tried to improve the administration of Awadh and bring peace and prosperity to the region. And process, what happened that this long period of peace under the Nawabs of Awadh helped in the growth of rich and distinct culture of Lucknow. So Lucknow, it became an important cultural city on the lines of Delhi. It had its own culture. The city became well known for arts, literature, and handicrafts. Now, in the coming chapters, we will study about the successor of Safdarjung, who was Tuja Uddaula, and we will study how he made an alliance with the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam and Mir Qasim of Bengal to fight against the British East India Company in the Battle of Buxar. This we will study in the coming chapters. But until Awadh encountered the British East India Company, it was until that time Awadh was very strong and powerful. Hello everyone, hope you're fine and in best of spirits and hope you're liking my videos. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for more wonderful videos. Enjoy your day. Take care.